G'day folks, Scott here. Today I am reviewing Hereditary. This movie is the directorial debut from Ari Aster. It stars Toni Collette and Gabriel Byrne. This has been getting a lot of hype. I've been hearing about this movie for ages as the scariest thing that ever since The Exorcist, and that people at screenings have been freaking out and leaving and all this kind of stuff. I tend to get very tentative about a movie when I hear hype of that level, be it in the horror genre or anything else. The last movie that sort of was hitting this kind of hype was A Quiet Place, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but a lot of people don't like that. Which leads me to how I think some people are going to feel about this movie. Horror, just like, say, heavy metal, which I'm into, has many different subcategories. There's ghost movies and found footage and slasher movies and gore movies and, thinking movies and slow movies, and there's all these different sort of categories within the horror genre. For me, this sits around that Exorcist, Omen, Rosemary's Baby, Exorcist 3, sort of A Quiet Place, even the sort of Aronofsky, which I'll get back to. It's a movie that's just as much a drama as it is a horror film. This is a movie about family. Now, I didn't watch trailers. I knew nothing about this other than the hype going into it. This is going to be totally spoiler-free, but I'm going to tell a very light version of the story that would be shown in the trailers, although visually I think the trailers gave away too much. But this is about a family who have lost the matriarch, the grandmother of the main character being Toni Collette. Her mother has died, and they've just buried her, and this is the family dealing with, I guess, the grief of the loss, of discovering a past about their family, because she was a very secretive woman and there was a lot about her that they didn't know. And the story sort of goes on from there. The reason I mentioned Aronofsky before is this in some ways reminds me a bit of Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream, in the fact that those movies were just as much about mental health as they were about anything else. Especially in Black Swan, where her mental health was at question so much that the story was somewhat ambiguous as to whether she was just full-on crazy or whether a lot of these things were actually happening and it had a supernatural kind of vibe to it. This plays with that for a while, and that's about all I want to say on that front. I don't want to go into why. But this is people with mental illness dealing with loss and grief and discovering their past, trying to deal with each other and doing it in a very, very well done way. Not only was this movie well acted, like Toni Collette and Gabriel Byrne were incredible in it. The two kids were fantastic. I don't know those actors' names, so sorry. But the direction, the photography, the cinematography, the just focus effects and different elements that they put into it was phenomenal. The opening shot of the trailer is this miniature house, and it zooms in and then it sort of interlocks into someone walking into a room on that same thing. This is about Toni Collette's character is an artist in this, and she does art gallery displays of miniatures, but she makes those miniatures specifically about her life. And that's a very cool, very interesting, both visual and storytelling element to this that I really liked, and I don't want to go any further into. I just want you to go see this movie, basically. It does become a horror movie, but like I said, it's also a drama. Like those older movies I mentioned, especially 70s movies and things where, like The Exorcist and The Omen, these told a story. Rosemary's Baby told a story. It developed character, it developed suspense, so that when shit goes crazy at the end, it pays off on all that storytelling that it did in the lead up. This is like that. This film isn't terrifying for me. I'm not scared by horror movies, and when I hear hype about things being the most terrifying movie ever made and terrifying audiences and stuff, it doesn't really matter to me because I know I'm not going to be afraid. But what this did was build dread in a way that I haven't felt in a movie in a long time. Dread and suspense. Great use of light, sound, writing and acting. Acting was off the charts, really, really amazingly done performances. Toni Collette stole the show from everybody. She was fantastic. But this is a dark, dark, brooding story. I reckon that's all I want to say. I don't really want to go any further into that. I hope that at least some of you watching this are in my situation before I saw it, where you knew nothing about it other than the hype, and you get to experience this story just unfold in front of you the way it did for me. I saw it last night, and instead of coming home and just filming the review, I really wanted to sort of think about it overnight and then do this, today. It deserves you to see it in the cinema. I guess the last thing I'll say about that is normally I go to a cinema like a 3-minute drive that way that is a really nice brand new theatre. It's a couple of years old. It's in great condition. That's our go-to place. Hereditary is not playing there. I have to drive 10 minutes that way to what used to be one of the best cinemas in my hometown, like a 30-screen megaplex, and it has, like luxurious cinemas and then big stadium-type cinemas and then a whole bunch of other cinemas. But it has basically 30 screens. This movie was playing in one of those 30 screens in the smallest screen in the back corner of the long corridor with all the cinemas on there in a cinema that held maybe 80 to 100 people, and it was probably 80 to 85% full. It was a decent-sized crowd. But for a movie receiving this kind of hype, I was really disappointed with the lack of support. I think that's because horror obviously doesn't do as well at the box office as other genres do, but I really wanted more for it. Look, I just want you to go see it. I think it deserves your money. I want, studios in Hollywood and stuff to realize that, at least for me, these are the kind of movies I want to see at the cinema. I want to see this stuff with a crowd. The crowd was very uncomfortable in certain scenes. There are a few times when I guess something you would deem to be terrifying or frightening happened, that there was this nervous, audible kind of laugh from people who didn't know how else to deal with what was happening on screen. Like I said, the movie, if I had to pick two, it reminds me most of Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist 3, and you'll know why when you see it. But it was great. Go to the cinema and see it. It deserves your money. I don't want to say anything more about it. I'm not putting footage in this as you would have noticed, as I ordinarily would. I want you to know as little as possible, but I want you to support it. Get in the cinema. See this as soon as you can. Next week, although it's already out overseas and it's only coming out here this coming Thursday, is Upgrade, made by Aussie director Lee Wennell, and I want to go see that, so I'll be back to review that next week. The week after that's Jurassic Park, whatever the new sequel is called. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.